started drawing when I was 10 years old, but my art didn't really improve until I was well into my 20s. So I thought it would be interesting for me to share with you today a little bit about my journey as an artist and the steps that I took to actually start seeing some improvement in my skills. There's nothing more frustrating than to be stuck at your current level without actually knowing how to improve or not seeing any improvement at all as time goes by. So in 2019, I actually made the conscious effort. That was my New Year's resolution to improve my skills. And I want to share with you everything that I've learned since then and like the steps that I took and what has been the most helpful for me to actually improve so that you can improve as well. So to start this whole journey, back in 2018, I read this book called The One Thing that is basically talking about how we can hone into one focus or one goal. What is the one activity that you can do in your day-to-day to really reach that goal? In my case, it was very clear. I really wanted to learn how to draw. I really wanted to improve my skills. I had been, at that point, spending so much money on materials and books, and I wasn't really seeing the results. So I realized that yes, my one thing is to draw, and what I can do to actually learn how to draw is to draw. So the one activity I really wanted to hone in was to build up a practice. And I challenged myself in 2019 for my New Year's resolution to draw for 1,000 hours. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell you that I have to do that. It was a lot of time, and I actually did not even complete the 1,000 hours. But that whole initiative, that whole project, it really helped me build this routine and the behavior that I didn't really have, that it is to actually draw. Before 2019, I would sit down and draw maybe like every other weekend or every other week, and it wasn't really consistent at all. And if you really want to improve and you want to see the development happen fast, you need to take the time. It's not going to happen overnight, and you really need to learn, put that to practice, learn, put that to practice. It's a very repetitive behavior, but there's no secret to it. You really just need more time. So while I don't necessarily encourage you to try to do the 1,000 hour challenge, mostly because it's very hard to have that much time in your hand, I do hope that you can put some sort of realistic goal to build up this routine. So maybe the goal would be to maybe do one drawing a week, or one drawing every other day, something that is kind of manageable, but that you actually tell yourself that you're gonna do it, so you can have it in your calendar, you can set that time aside to draw and really be present and focused in that skill. The next thing that I learned was to focus at one thing at a time. When you're starting or when you're trying to improve, it might be overwhelming to know how many things that you actually want to improve. It might be all of the fundamentals, light, shading, coloring. It could be a lot. So instead of trying to build up this perfect drawing, when you start, just try to focus in one skill that you kind of want to hone in at a time. So right now, when I'm starting a sketch, starting an idea, or even a photo study, I'm gonna make a note, I'll actually write it out, what I'm trying to focus. Usually right now, it's light and shadow, something more dramatic, maybe facial expressions, more appeal in composition and poses and perspective and things like that. But each drawing has its own focus, so I don't get overwhelmed and kind of quit. The third thing that I learned, and that has changed my entire life, is to use reference. And I know this is not new, but for me it was, because when I started, I would sometimes make photo studies, but I wouldn't necessarily use references for original ideas. So it wasn't until I actually started taking pictures of myself posing and acting as my own character that I started seeing an actual improvement, especially in anatomy, for the fingers, facial expressions, everything improved once I started using photo references. And not just for anatomy, but I would also use photo references for lighting, color, physical characteristics of my characters, and everything else that I'm not totally sure. I'm definitely gonna go to Pinterest and try to find a reference that fits that specific idea. And within references, there are two practical things that I really like using. One is this app called VizRef. So I do digital illustrations with Procreate, and there's this app, VizRef, where I can have little mood boards with a bunch of different pictures set to the side, so I can use all of my reference and see all of them together in one place. The other tool that I have been enjoying using more and more lately are these little anatomy figurines. I hated them because they're kind of stiff. Like if you try to cross arms and stuff, like since it's rough and it's not like soft like muscles, it's really bad. However, they're very useful for different angles, so like top-down angle or like bottom-up. Anything that I couldn't necessarily take a picture of myself, I would take a picture of the figurine and then use other pictures to kind of fill in the blanks of the information that I don't have by using these figurines. But it is very useful. What I took a long time to realize is that if I don't know how to draw something, I can just look at someone who has drawn it and analyze their drawing and learn from their version instead. When I first started trying to draw cars, for example, not really something I draw very often, but I had a very hard time figuring out how to make that shape. Like, cars are weird. They are not perfect squares. They're not rectangles. They're a bizarre abstract shape. So it was really helpful for me to see how other artists have done it and simplify those shapes. Same with plants. I'm still not good with vegetation in general, especially like trees and foliage. That's not my thing. But seeing how other artists have done it has really helped. And I always keep a Pinterest board saved with like illustration references that really help me even to feel inspired when I'm not. The other one is to take courses. I took a few drawing courses when I was a kid, but it wasn't until like a couple years ago that I decided to go back and try to do some online courses. And let me tell you, online courses with like artists that you really like are way more beneficial than any drawing book. I swear, like video content with exercises and projects, way more beneficial than just buying an art book and just reading it. Please, yes. So my favorite courses that I took when I was trying to learn how to improve were from schoolism.com. There was a course by Jamila Knopf that was drawing and storytelling and drawing. Her art is beautiful, learned a lot from her. And then there was also a different course by Cody Gramstead on Schoolism that is also like Fundamentals of Art. That his course, when I finished, I DM'd him on Instagram. Never got a reply, but it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. The only bad thing is that Schoolism is a subscription model, so like $30 a month. So I can't really go back and check that course again unless I want to go back and pay. So that's annoying, but super useful. The other platform that I really like is Domestika, because you purchase the course and you have access for life. And all their courses follow kind of the same format. So they're very specific, very tangible skills that you're going to learn with those artists. And they have an insane portfolio of skills that you can quickly learn. So really, really like them. And then going into the same subject, the one thing that really helped me was to start studying art and just broadening my horizons. So when I first started drawing, I was really focused on fashion illustration, not really sure why. But then once I started looking for more artists on Instagram and got into that rabbit hole, started buying some books, some drawing books, that really inspired me to try some new things. And it might be the case that the reason why your art hasn't really improved is because you haven't really found a subject matter or kind of like the niche of drawings that you really enjoy drawing. The next step might seem very basic and silly, but needs to be said. You need to learn how to use your own tools. Let that sit there for a little bit, okay? So if you are a beginner artist or if you just recently started using digital media or anything of the sort, please watch a ton of videos to fully understand all of your tools and how you can use them the best. In 2016, when I first got my iPad, I did not watch YouTube videos on how to draw with Procreate. I just kind of went into it blindly without knowing really what layers were, like layer modes, anything. Did not know anything. And it took me years to learn stuff that I could have learned that first day if I had watched like a 30-minute tutorial. Don't waste your time, just watch a video and learn it. And then my last 3 tips are all connected. The first one is kind of tying back with the second one. So instead of thinking, what do you want to improve with this piece? After you finish a piece, do a post-drawing analysis of like what went right, what went wrong, what could have improved. Don't do that immediately after you finish the piece. Wait a couple of days because our eyes kind of get like refreshed and resetted. So then you can actually see some errors or mistakes that you did or decisions that now you kind of like don't agree with after the fact. There's always that kind of like regret of like, oh my God, I should have taken a little bit more time. So kind of establish a routine in your drawing and see if that helps. The 9th tip I have is to redraw your old drawing. This is especially important if you're really thinking that you're stuck and that you haven't improved at all. I now have a couple of different milestones, a couple of different drawings that I do every year that are showing me how much I've improved. One is my holiday card that I do for my family, so I draw that every year. Another one is this one drawing that I made in 2013, and I have done it very recently, like the past 3 years. And those have been great exercises for me to see how much I've improved and how much I've learned in the past year. The last tip, number 10, to finish off this video, is to develop a drawing process, a step-by-step that you kind of follow every time. Twiggy, come on, dude! Kind of like a checklist that you can use for every drawing so that you're more organized, you don't forget anything, and that you don't really feel like you're tied up to one piece. Like you could potentially be working with multiple pieces at once because you already know how to actually go about each of these pieces. So I actually have my own drawing process, some of which I kind of already gave you a sneak peek throughout this video, and that will be the content of my next video. So if you liked this one and you're interested in knowing how I actually go about all of my illustrations, please don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss next video. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Clarissa, and I'll see you next time. Bye.